Today, I want to talk about a topic that is crucial for personal growth, success, and overall well being: controlling your emotions and being strong. Emotions are a natural part of being human. We all experience joy, anger, fear, sadness, and excitement. However, it's not about avoiding emotions, but about learning to manage them effectively. Emotional control is not about suppressing feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about understanding your emotions, responding rather than reacting, and using emotional awareness to guide your actions. When you learn to control your emotions, you strengthen your ability to face challenges, make better decisions, and maintain peace in the face of adversity. That self-awareness is the cornerstone of emotional control. It is the ability to recognize and understand your emotions as they arise, and it's the first step in gaining control over them. Without self-awareness, emotions can feel overwhelming, often dictating your actions and responses in a way that may not serve you well. When you are not aware of what you're feeling, you might react impulsively or make decisions based on temporary emotional states rather than on thoughtful reflection. The power of self-awareness lies in your ability to pause, notice, and reflect on the emotions that come up in different situations. For example, you might feel a surge of anger when you're cut off in traffic. Without self-awareness, you might react instantly by honking the horn, swearing, or engaging in aggressive driving. However, if you have developed self-awareness, you will notice that your body is tense, your heart rate is increasing, and you're feeling anger rise in your chest. By recognizing these emotional signals, you now have the opportunity to take a step back, breathe, and choose a different, more measured response. This ability to recognize emotions is incredibly powerful because it gives you the freedom to decide how to handle situations rather than being controlled by them. Moreover, self-awareness isn't just about recognizing when you are upset or angry. It's about understanding the full spectrum of your emotions: joy, fear, sadness, excitement, and all the nuances in between. The more attuned you are to your emotional state, the better you can understand the root causes behind those emotions. Perhaps you're feeling irritable and don't know why. But through self-awareness, you might realize that your frustration stems from an underlying fear of failure or unresolved stress from work. Understanding these deeper emotional triggers gives you the insight needed to address the root causes of your emotions rather than simply reacting to the surface level. Self-awareness also involves understanding how your emotions affect others. Emotions are contagious. Emotions are contagious. If you're feeling down or angry, those feelings can quickly spread to those around you, whether you're aware of it or not. For instance, if you walk into a room feeling frustrated and immediately snap at someone, the person you're speaking to may feel hurt or defensive. However, if you are self-aware, you can recognize that your frustration isn't directed at the other person, but rather an external situation. This recognition allows you to regulate your response and communicate more thoughtfully. Building self-awareness requires practice and intentionality. It doesn't come overnight, but with consistent effort, it can become a natural part of your emotional experience. Journaling is one effective way to deepen self-awareness. By regularly writing about your thoughts and feelings, you start to create a habit of checking in with yourself. You might ask yourself questions like, how am I feeling today? What events triggered certain emotions? How did I react? And what would I do differently next time? Over time, this reflection helps you connect the dots between situations, emotions, and behaviors, allowing you to make more informed choices. Self-awareness also means being honest with yourself. Sometimes we might feel emotions that we're reluctant to acknowledge, such as jealousy, guilt, or insecurity. It can be uncomfortable to face these emotions, but avoiding or suppressing them only leads to them manifesting in unhealthy ways. The more we are willing to sit with and accept our emotions, the easier it becomes to understand them and respond in ways that are aligned with our values and goals. In addition, self-awareness isn't a static quality. It evolves as you grow and encounter new life experiences. As you face challenges and changes in your life, your emotional landscape may shift. Being aware of these shifts and acknowledging new emotions as they arise will help you stay grounded and adaptable, even in times of stress or uncertainty. The more you develop this awareness, the more in control you will feel over your emotions, allowing you to make decisions and take actions that reflect your true self rather than being swayed by temporary emotional fluctuations. Self-awareness, then, is not simply about observing your emotions in the moment, but also about developing a deeper understanding of your emotional patterns, triggers, and responses over time. It's about fostering a relationship with yourself where you are in tune with your internal world, allowing you to cultivate the emotional intelligence needed to navigate life's challenges with strength and clarity. Mindfulness is a powerful practice that can significantly enhance your ability to control your emotions. It involves being fully present in the moment, with a heightened awareness of your thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations without judgment. The essence of mindfulness is about paying attention, intentionally and without distraction, to your experience in the present moment. This practice allows you to observe your emotions as they arise, understand their nature, and choose your response more wisely. One of the main benefits of mindfulness is that it prevents you from becoming overwhelmed by your emotions. In everyday life, we often find ourselves lost in thought, dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. When we're caught up in these thoughts, we're not fully present, and this can intensify your emotional reactions. For example, if you're constantly thinking about a stressful conversation you had earlier in the day, or dreading a difficult situation in the future, you're not engaging with what's happening right in front of you. Your emotional state is influenced by these thoughts, and your reactions are often based on things that aren't even happening at this very moment. Mindfulness helps break this cycle. When you practice mindfulness, you intentionally bring your focus back to the present. Hey, Tim, if you notice yourself feeling stressed or anxious, you don't immediately react. Instead, you become aware of the sensation of tension in your body or the thoughts racing through your mind. This awareness gives you a chance to respond thoughtfully, rather than simply reacting on autopilot. You can take a deep breath, ground yourself in the moment, and choose how you want to handle the situation. By observing your emotions in this way, you can gain a better understanding of why you feel the way you do. For instance, if you feel angry or upset in a particular moment, mindfulness allows you to pause and ask yourself, "Oh, why am I feeling this way? What triggered this emotion?" It encourages you to explore the root causes of your feelings without judgment or blame. Is it the result of external events? Or does it stem from something deeper, like fear, insecurity, or unmet needs? This self-inquiry is crucial because it shifts the focus away from reacting to emotions and moves toward understanding them. Mindfulness also encourages non-judgmental awareness of your emotions. Often when we feel strong emotions, we judge ourselves for having them. For example, we might think, "I shouldn't be feeling this way," or "I'm weak for getting upset." These judgments only create more emotional turmoil, reinforcing negative feelings like guilt or shame. However, mindfulness teaches you to observe your emotions with kindness and without judgment. It's not about labeling emotions as good or bad. It's about accepting them as they are and recognizing that all emotions are part of the human experience. When you practice non-judgment, you begin to treat yourself with compassion, and you realize that emotions are transient and don't define you. The act of mindfulness also fosters emotional regulation, which is key to controlling your emotions. In moments of stress or anxiety, you can use mindfulness techniques to calm your nervous system. Deep breathing, for instance, is a simple yet powerful mindfulness tool that can help slow your heart rate and reduce feelings of overwhelm. By focusing on your breath, taking slow, deep inhales and exhales, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps counteract the body's fight or flight response. This helps you maintain clarity and composure, even in emotionally intense situations. Another crucial aspect of mindfulness is its ability to help you develop patience. In today's fast-paced world, we are often conditioned to seek immediate results and instant gratification. This mindset can lead to impatience and frustration, especially when things don't go as planned. When you incorporate mindfulness into your life, you begin to recognize the value of being present with each moment without rushing or forcing outcomes. This patience allows you to embrace the flow of life and accept that some things take time to unfold. It can also help you remain calm during moments of uncertainty or difficulty, knowing that everything is unfolding as it should, even if it doesn't look the way you expect. Mindfulness also teaches you to cultivate gratitude, another powerful tool for emotional control. When we are mindful, we become more aware of the small, everyday things that we often take for granted, like the warmth of the sun, the taste of a delicious meal, or the comfort of a good conversation. Gratitude shifts your emotional focus from what's lacking or going wrong in your life to what is abundant and positive. Practicing gratitude helps create an optimistic mindset, which in turn strengthens your emotional resilience. By regularly acknowledging the things you are grateful for, you build a mental and emotional habit that promotes emotional well-being. Furthermore, mindfulness has a profound impact on emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our emotions and those of others. Through mindfulness, you develop greater emotional awareness, which enables you to navigate complex emotional situations with ease. By paying attention to your own emotional state and how it affects your actions, you become more attuned to how others are feeling. This increased sensitivity helps you respond to others with empathy and compassion, fostering better relationships and communication. Mindfulness also encourages the development of mental flexibility. Life is unpredictable, and things don't always go as planned. When you approach situations mindfully, you become less rigid in your thinking and more open to adapting to new circumstances. This flexibility allows you to remain calm and centered, even when things don't unfold as expected. Instead of becoming frustrated or anxious, you can approach challenges with an open mind, looking for solutions or ways to adapt to the new reality. As you practice mindfulness over time, it becomes easier to incorporate it into your daily life. It can be practiced in small moments throughout the day, such as when you're waiting in line, having a conversation, or even while washing dishes. By bringing mindfulness into these routine activities, you begin to create a deeper sense of connection with yourself and the world around you. With continued practice, mindfulness becomes not just a technique, but a way of life, one that supports emotional control and resilience in all aspects of your existence. One of the most powerful tools for controlling your emotions and strengthening your emotional resilience is the ability to pause before reacting. In many situations, particularly those involving intense emotions, the impulse is to react immediately, often out of frustration, anger, or anxiety. These immediate reactions, however, are typically driven by the emotional brain, which is more concerned with instant responses than thoughtful consideration. While this reactionary approach might feel satisfying in the moment, it often leads to regrettable outcomes. This is why learning to pause before reacting is an essential skill for emotional control and overall strength. The pause is the space between stimulus and response, the brief moment where you can choose to step back and give yourself the time to think. In this moment, you don't have to react to the situation with an immediate outburst, a quick judgment, or an emotional response. Instead, you allow yourself the opportunity to reflect on what's actually happening, what emotions you're experiencing, and how you want to respond, rather than letting your emotions dictate your actions. When you pause, you create distance between yourself and the intensity of the emotion you're feeling. For example, if you're in an argument with someone and feel anger rising within you, the impulse might be to retaliate with sharp words or harsh accusations. However, if you pause, take a few deep breaths, count to 10, or step away for a moment, you allow the immediate surge of emotion to subside before you respond. This moment of stillness helps you gain clarity and reduces the likelihood that you'll act out of frustration, leading to more thoughtful and constructive communication. The pause is not just about preventing negative reactions. It also allows you to respond in a way that is aligned with your values and long-term goals. Without this pause, it's easy to fall into old patterns of behavior or act impulsively in ways that are contrary to your best interests. For example, if you receive critical feedback at work and your first instinct is to become defensive, you might argue or dismiss the feedback rather than taking it in with an open mind. However, if you practice pausing, you give yourself the space to process the feedback objectively and respond with curiosity or gratitude rather than defensiveness. This makes it easier to learn from the situation and use it as an opportunity for growth. The ability to pause also helps you avoid escalating conflicts. When you're in a tense situation, emotions are often running high. If both parties are reacting impulsively, the situation can quickly spiral out of control. However, if you can pause and regulate your own emotional response, it gives the other person the space to do the same. This can de-escalate the tension and create a more peaceful environment for resolving the issue. You might be surprised at how often situations resolve more smoothly when you take that extra moment to breathe and respond thoughtfully. In addition to preventing impulsive reactions, the pause also encourages self-reflection. When you hit the pause button, you can examine your emotional state more closely. Are you feeling angry because of something the other person did, or is there an underlying issue, such as stress from work or personal concerns, that's amplifying your response? Are you reacting to a situation, or are there deeper emotions, fear, insecurity, or frustration driving your behavior? By taking a moment to check in with yourself, you gain valuable insight into your emotions and the patterns that trigger them. This self-awareness is essential for emotional growth and control. A critical aspect of pausing before reacting is developing the patience to let your emotions settle. When emotions are intense, it's easy to want to do something right away, to act in the heat of the moment. However, research shows that emotional intensity tends to decrease over time. In fact, the longer you wait before reacting, the more likely you are to regain emotional balance and perspective. When you're caught up in strong emotions like anger or anxiety, your thinking becomes clouded and you're less able to think logically or rationally. By allowing yourself the time to calm down, you give your logical brain the opportunity to take control. This makes it easier to respond in a way that aligns with your long-term objectives, rather than reacting in a way that you might regret later. Sometimes, the pause might also involve taking a step back physically. For example, if you feel overwhelmed by emotions during a conversation or in a tense situation, physically removing yourself from the environment for a moment can help reset your emotional state. Taking a walk, stepping outside for some fresh air, or simply sitting quietly in another room can provide the mental and emotional space you need to collect your thoughts. This action signals to your brain that you're not in immediate danger and that there is time to reflect before responding. Moreover, the pause is not only beneficial for you as an individual, but can also enhance your relationships with others. When you pause before reacting, you show respect for the other person's perspective and demonstrate emotional maturity. Instead of lashing out, you model healthy emotional regulation, which can create a more harmonious and constructive interaction. This is particularly important in relationships where trust, understanding, and communication are essential. However, the pause doesn't always need to be long. It doesn't require you to completely remove yourself from the situation for an extended period. It can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths or counting to 10 before you respond. These small, mindful moments allow you to gain clarity, regulate your emotions, and ensure that you're making a conscious decision rather than acting out of instinct. Pausing before reacting also cultivates emotional resilience. Life is full of unexpected challenges, and the more you practice pausing, the more resilient you become in facing adversity. When faced with difficulty, the ability to pause helps you stay grounded in the present moment, rather than becoming overwhelmed by the situation. It's a reminder that you always have a choice in how you respond to circumstances, no matter how difficult they may seem. Learning to pause is not always easy, especially in the face of strong emotions, but it's a skill that improves with practice. It requires you to become aware of your emotional triggers and be patient with yourself as you learn to manage your responses. Over time, the pause becomes a natural part of your emotional toolkit. When you face challenging or emotionally charged situations, the pause will be your first line of defense, giving you the space to think, reflect, and respond with greater wisdom and composure. One of the most transformative tools for controlling your emotions is the ability to reframe negative thoughts. This process involves changing the way you perceive or interpret a situation, allowing you to shift from a negative or limiting perspective to one that is more balanced, positive, and constructive. Our thoughts play a significant role in shaping our emotional responses, and often it's not the events themselves that upset us, but how we interpret those events. By learning to reframe these thoughts, you can take control of your emotional state and strengthen your ability to manage your emotions effectively. The concept of reframing is based on cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which teaches that our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are all connected. When we encounter a challenging situation, our thoughts automatically begin to form, often without conscious awareness. These automatic thoughts tend to be negative or unhelpful, which can trigger strong emotional responses such as anger, anxiety, or sadness. For example, if you make a mistake at work, your initial thought might be, "I'm terrible at this and I'll never improve." This thought can lead to feelings of self-doubt, frustration, and helplessness. However, through reframing, you can challenge that initial thought and replace it with a more constructive one, such as, "I made a mistake, but that's a normal part of learning. I can use this experience to improve." Reframing is not about denying reality or pretending that things are better than they are. It's about adopting a different perspective that enables you to approach the situation in a more positive and productive way. It allows you to break free from the automatic, often distorted thinking patterns that fuel negative emotions. The first step in reframing is to recognize the negative or unhelpful thought that has triggered your emotional response. These thoughts are often rooted in cognitive distortions, patterns of thinking that tend to exaggerate negative aspects of a situation. Common distortions include catastrophizing, expecting the worst outcome, black and white thinking, viewing things as all good or all bad, and personalization, blaming yourself for things outside of your control. Once you identify a negative thought, the next step is to challenge it. Ask yourself questions like, is this thought based on facts or is it an assumption? Am I exaggerating the situation? What evidence do I have to support this thought? And what evidence contradicts? For example, if you're thinking, "I always mess up at work," you can examine whether this is truly the case. Perhaps you've had a few mistakes, but you've also had successes. This questioning helps you recognize that negative thoughts are often exaggerated or overly simplistic. A key component of reframing is replacing negative thoughts with more balanced, realistic alternatives. This doesn't mean you should ignore negative aspects of a situation, but rather that you acknowledge them in a way that gives you a more accurate and hopeful perspective. In the previous example, instead of thinking, "I'm terrible at this," you might reframe it as, "I made a mistake, but that's part of the learning process. I can learn from it and do better next time." This reframed thought is more constructive because it allows room for growth and self-compassion rather than focusing solely on failure and self-criticism. Reframing also involves recognizing the broader context of a situation. Sometimes, when we're faced with challenges, it's easy to get caught in the details and lose sight of the bigger picture. For instance, if you're feeling overwhelmed by a demanding project at work, you might think, "I can't handle this. It's too much for me." However, reframing might involve stepping back and considering the situation from a different angle. "This project is challenging, but I've handled difficult tasks before, and I have the skills and resources to get through this." Reframing helps you broaden your perspective, shifting from a narrow, defeatist view to one of possibility and capability. In addition, reframing allows you to embrace a growth mindset, a belief that your abilities and intelligence can be developed over time. Learning? When you approach challenges with a growth mindset, you're more likely to see setbacks as opportunities for growth, rather than as signs of failure. For example, if you failed to meet a personal goal, instead of thinking, "I'll never be good enough," you can reframe it as, "This setback is a chance to learn. I'll figure out what went wrong and adjust my approach." This shift in thinking reduces frustration and empowers you to take proactive steps toward improvement. Reframing can also be particularly helpful in managing stress and anxiety. Often, stress arises from our perception of a situation. How we view a challenge or pressure can either help us manage it or make it feel overwhelming. Let's say you're feeling anxious about an upcoming presentation. Your automatic thought might be, "I'm going to mess up, and everyone will think I'm incompetent." This thought generates anxiety and fear. By reframing, you could change that thought to, "I'm nervous, but nerves are a normal part of presenting. I've prepared, and I'm capable of handling this." This reframed thought alleviates some of the anxiety by shifting the focus from fear of failure to a more positive and empowering perspective. Another key element of reframing is practicing self-compassion. Negative thoughts often arise from harsh self-judgment or unrealistic expectations. Reframing is about acknowledging your imperfections with kindness and understanding rather than criticizing yourself. When you're able to reframe negative thoughts in a compassionate way, it creates space for self-acceptance. For example, instead of thinking, "I should never feel sad," you might reframe it to, "It's okay to feel sad sometimes. I'm allowed to experience these emotions, and it doesn't mean I'm weak or incapable." This compassionate approach fosters emotional resilience and helps you respond to challenges with greater patience and understanding. Over time, the more you practice reframing, the more natural it becomes. You start to see opportunities for reframing in everyday situations, and you become more adept at shifting your perspective in real time. The more you reframe your negative thoughts, the less power they have over you, and the more control you gain over your emotions. Instead of reacting impulsively to negative situations, you can respond with greater emotional balance and clarity, transforming challenges into opportunities for personal growth. Reframing negative thoughts also helps you cultivate gratitude. In many situations, our immediate reaction is to focus on what's wrong or what we don't have, which can lead to feelings of dissatisfaction or frustration. However, reframing allows you to shift this focus to what is going well in your life. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm always so busy and never have time for myself," you might reframe it as, "I have a lot of responsibilities, but that means I'm capable and trusted. I can also carve out time for myself when I prioritize it." This shift in thinking helps you appreciate your circumstances and your ability to manage them. Emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity, setbacks, and difficult emotional experiences. It's the strength to adapt to challenges, recover from disappointments, and maintain a positive outlook in the face of adversity. Developing emotional resilience is crucial for managing emotions effectively, because life will inevitably throw challenges and difficult situations your way. Instead of allowing negative circumstances to define or overwhelm you, emotional resilience empowers you to face these challenges with courage, flexibility, and an ability to recover more quickly. The foundation of emotional resilience lies in your mindset, the way you perceive challenges and setbacks. Resilient people tend to view difficulties as temporary obstacles that can be overcome rather than insurmountable barriers. Unsurmountable barrier. When something goes wrong, instead of thinking, "This is too much for me," a resilient person might think, "This is hard, but I can find a way through it." This shift in perspective helps to reduce the emotional toll of negative situations and encourages proactive problem solving rather than feeling stuck or defeated. One of the first steps in developing emotional resilience is learning to accept that pain, hardship, and disappointment are natural parts of life. When we resist difficult emotions or deny the existence of challenges, it only prolongs the suffering and increases emotional stress. However, when we embrace the reality that life involves both ups and downs, we can begin to manage our emotional responses in a healthier way. Instead of reacting with shock or frustration when things don't go as planned, we can remind ourselves that setbacks are part of the human experience. This acceptance of imperfection allows us to move forward without being consumed by negative emotions. Another critical component of emotional resilience is cultivating a strong sense of self-efficacy, which is a belief that you have the ability to handle whatever challenges come your way. People with high self-efficacy are more likely to take initiative, persevere through obstacles, and seek out solutions to problems. They have confidence in their ability to influence their circumstances, which makes them more resilient in the face of adversity. Developing self-efficacy involves setting and achieving small goals, which builds confidence and strengthens your belief in your ability to succeed, even when the going gets tough. When faced with a difficult situation, instead of feeling helpless, you can remind yourself of your past successes and the strategies that have worked for you in overcoming obstacles. A resilient person also tends to maintain an optimistic outlook, even in the face of hardship. Optimism doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending that everything is fine when it's not. Rather, it involves choosing to focus on the potential for growth, learning, and improvement in every situation. For example, after experiencing a career setback, a resilient person might think, This may be an opportunity for me to reassess my goals and improve my skills. Rather than dwelling on the negative aspects of the situation, they see it as a chance to evolve. This positive perspective allows them to stay motivated and hopeful, even during difficult times. Social support is another vital pillar of emotional resilience. No one is immune to stress or hardship, and having a support network of friends, family, or colleagues can make all the difference when navigating tough times. Resilient people are not afraid to reach out for help when needed. They understand that leaning on others is a sign of strength, not weakness. Emotional support from loved ones provides reassurance, comfort, and perspective when dealing with personal struggles. Furthermore, sharing your feelings with someone who listens empathetically can help to release emotional tension and allow for healing. When you face challenges, knowing that you have people who care about you and support you can give you the strength to persevere. In addition to seeking support from others, building your emotional resilience involves developing a sense of purpose and meaning in life. When you have a clear sense of purpose, whether it's your career goals, your relationships, or your personal values, you are better able to weather the storms of life. A strong sense of purpose acts as an anchor during tough times, helping you stay grounded and focused on what really matters. For example, someone who is deeply committed to their family may find the strength to keep going through a difficult period because they are motivated by the desire to provide for or support their loved ones. When you're clear on your why, you're more likely to persevere through challenges with determination and clarity. Another essential aspect of emotional resilience is self-care. Taking care of your physical, emotional, and mental health is vital for building resilience. When you're physically healthy, eating well, getting enough sleep, and exercising regularly, it's easier to cope with stress and emotional challenges. Physical activity in particular has been shown to reduce stress, improve mood, and increase overall well-being. Engaging in activities that bring you joy and relaxation, such as hobbies or spending time with loved ones, can also help to replenish your emotional reserves. When you practice self-care, you build the emotional strength to face life's challenges without becoming overwhelmed. Developing emotional resilience also involves learning from your experiences. Every challenge you face provides valuable lessons that can help you grow emotionally stronger. Instead of viewing failure as a defeat, resilient individuals see it as an opportunity to learn and improve. Reflecting on what went wrong and what you could have done differently helps you gain insights that can strengthen your ability to handle similar challenges in the future. This reflective approach enables you to develop greater emotional intelligence as you begin to recognize your emotional triggers and responses in various situations. Life rarely goes according to plan, and being able to adapt to changing circumstances is essential for managing stress and maintaining emotional well-being. Resilient individuals are able to adjust their expectations, change their strategies, and find new solutions when faced with obstacles. This adaptability reduces the emotional strain of dealing with unexpected challenges and allows you to move forward, even when things don't go as expected. Instead of becoming rigid in your thinking or giving up when faced with a setback, you learn to pivot and adjust your approach. A significant part of building emotional resilience is also developing the ability to tolerate discomfort and uncertainty. Many of life's challenges involve periods of uncertainty where the outcome is unknown. Instead of reacting with anxiety or fear in these situations, emotionally resilient individuals learn to tolerate these uncomfortable feelings without letting them dictate their actions. For example, waiting for a job interview result or facing an important decision can create feelings of uncertainty, but a resilient person can sit with that discomfort without becoming overwhelmed by it. They trust in their ability to handle whatever outcome arises and remain focused on the present moment. Lastly, practicing gratitude is a powerful tool for boosting emotional resilience. In difficult times, it's easy to focus on what's going wrong. However, practicing gratitude helps shift your focus to what's going well, even in the midst of hardship. By regularly acknowledging the positive aspects of your life, whether it's the support of loved ones, your health, or the opportunity to learn from a challenge, you cultivate a mindset that fosters emotional strength. Gratitude reminds you that even in tough times, there are still things to be thankful for. which helps maintain your emotional balance and resilience. Emotional resilience is not something that happens overnight. It is a skill that develops over time through consistent practice and learning. It involves building healthy emotional habits, nurturing your mental and physical well-being, and cultivating a mindset that embraces challenges as opportunities for growth. With time, the more resilient you become, the easier it will be to navigate life's inevitable ups and downs with strength, flexibility, and an unwavering belief in your ability to persevere. Practicing mindfulness and self-awareness is a cornerstone of emotional control and personal strength. Mindfulness refers to the ability to be fully present in the moment without judgment or distraction. It involves paying attention to your thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations as they arise, and accepting them as they are without trying to change or suppress them. Self-awareness, on the other hand, is the ability to recognize and understand your own emotions, motivations, and reactions. Together, mindfulness and self-awareness help you develop greater emotional intelligence, which allows you to regulate your emotions more effectively and respond to situations with greater clarity and composure. The first step in practicing mindfulness is becoming aware of your current emotional state. Many people go through their daily lives on autopilot, reacting to situations without truly understanding why they feel the way they do. Mindfulness encourages you to pause and check in with yourself, noticing how your body feels, what thoughts are running through your mind, and what emotions are arising. This practice of self-reflection creates an opportunity for you to identify your emotional triggers and patterns, which is the first step in gaining control over your emotions. For instance, you might find that certain situations, such as public speaking or social interactions, trigger feelings of anxiety or fear. By practicing mindfulness, you can observe these feelings without immediately reacting to them. Instead of becoming consumed by anxiety, you can acknowledge that the feeling is there and allow it to pass without judgment or resistance. This simple act of observing emotions without attachment is powerful because it creates a sense of detachment from your emotional responses, allowing you to choose how to react rather than being controlled by your emotions. Mindfulness also teaches you to become more aware of the thoughts that fuel your emotions. Often our emotions are the result of automatic thoughts that we don't consciously examine. For example, if you feel anger rising within you during a conversation, mindfulness allows you to notice the thoughts that are triggering that anger. Perhaps you're thinking, this person doesn't respect me, or they're deliberately trying to frustrate me. By identifying these thoughts, you can challenge their validity and decide whether they are helping or hindering you. Mindfulness gives you the space to recognize these thought patterns, which are often based on assumptions or distortions, and then choose to let go of them or replace them with more balanced perspectives. In addition to identifying and observing your emotions and thoughts, mindfulness encourages you to stay grounded in the present moment. Often we allow our minds to wander to the past or future, which can lead to unnecessary stress or regret. For example, if you've experienced a difficult situation at work, you might ruminate on it, replaying the events over and over in your mind. This rumination can keep you stuck in negative emotions, preventing you from moving forward. Mindfulness helps you redirect your focus to the present moment, which can break the cycle of negative thinking. By bringing your attention back to the here and now, you reduce the emotional weight of past regrets or future anxieties. Another powerful aspect of mindfulness is its ability to enhance emotional regulation. When you are mindful of your emotions, you are better equipped to manage them in a healthy way. Instead of reacting impulsively or letting your emotions control you, mindfulness allows you to respond thoughtfully. For example, if you feel anger rising in response to someone's criticism, mindfulness helps you recognize that anger without immediately acting on it. You might choose to pause, take a deep breath, and respond calmly rather than reacting defensively. Over time, this practice of emotional regulation allows you to maintain composure in situations where you might have previously felt overwhelmed or out of control. Self-awareness, which goes hand in hand with mindfulness, plays a crucial role in emotional control. Self-awareness involves being in tune with your internal state and understanding the underlying causes of your emotions. It requires you to take a step back and reflect on your emotional experiences, which helps you gain insight into your needs, desires, and vulnerabilities. The more self-aware you become, the better equipped you are to navigate life's challenges in a way that aligns with your values and long-term goals. For instance, if you notice that you often feel irritable or frustrated when you're hungry, tired, or overwhelmed, this self-awareness allows you to address those needs before they escalate into more intense emotions. Self-awareness also helps you recognize patterns in your behavior. For example, if you tend to withdraw when you're stressed or become overly critical when you're feeling insecure, understanding these patterns allows you to respond differently in the future. By recognizing your emotional triggers, you can take proactive steps to manage your responses and avoid falling into negative patterns. Mindfulness and self-awareness also help you develop greater empathy for others. When you are attuned to your own emotions, you are more likely to understand and connect with the emotions of those around you. This emotional awareness enables you to respond to others with greater compassion and understanding. For example, if a friend is upset, being mindful of their emotional state allows you to approach the situation with empathy rather than judgment. You may be able to listen more attentively, offer support, and provide comfort in a way that fosters a deeper connection. Furthermore, practicing mindfulness and self-awareness helps you reduce emotional reactivity. When you are not mindful, it's easy to react impulsively to situations, especially when your emotions are intense. These knee-jerk reactions can lead to misunderstandings, conflicts, or regrettable actions. However, mindfulness allows you to create a pause between the stimulus, such as a comment or event, and your response, giving you the time to process your emotions and choose a more measured reaction. Over time, this practice of creating space between trigger and response strengthens your emotional resilience, allowing you to handle challenges with greater poise and patience. Mindfulness also fosters a sense of acceptance and non-judgment. When you practice mindfulness, you begin to accept your emotions as they are, rather than labeling them as good or bad. Many people are quick to judge their emotions, thinking that they should never feel angry, sad, or anxious. This judgment can create internal conflict as you resist your feelings instead of accepting them. Mindfulness encourages you to approach your emotions with curiosity. I'd appreciate it if we could take turns speaking. This direct approach sets a clear expectation while maintaining respect for both yourself and the other person. It's also important to recognize that not everyone will respond positively to your boundaries. Some people may resist or challenge your boundaries, especially if they are used to having you conform to their demands or expectations. In these situations, it's crucial to remain firm and consistent. Being assertive does not mean being aggressive, but rather standing by your decision and calmly reiterating your boundaries when needed. If someone continues to push against your boundaries, it may be necessary to reassess the relationship and determine whether it is a healthy and respectful connection. People who consistently disregard your boundaries may not have your best interests at heart, and it may be necessary to distance yourself from them for your own well-being. Another challenge in setting boundaries is learning to set them with yourself. Often, we allow our own habits or thought patterns to cross the boundaries that we set for others. For example, you might have set a boundary to avoid checking work emails after hours, but you may find yourself breaking that boundary due to stress or the desire to be constantly productive. Setting boundaries with yourself means respecting your own needs for rest, relaxation, and personal time. It involves creating rules or guidelines for yourself that prioritize your health and well-being, even if it means saying no to work or social obligations. Holding yourself accountable for these boundaries is an essential part of emotional strength and maintaining balance in your life. Additionally, setting boundaries requires constant reflection and adjustment. Life circumstances change, and so do your needs and limits. You might find that certain boundaries need to be expanded or contracted based on your current situation. For example, if you take on a new job or enter into a new relationship, your boundaries may need to be adjusted to accommodate new responsibilities and dynamics. Regularly reflecting on your boundaries and making adjustments as needed helps you stay aligned with your goals and ensures that you continue to protect your emotional health. The process of setting and maintaining boundaries is an ongoing journey. It's not something that you perfect overnight, but rather a skill that develops over time through practice, self-reflection, and consistent effort. In turn, this strengthens your emotional resilience and gives you the confidence to navigate life's challenges with greater control and strength.